So, ladies and gentlemen, there's a serious diplomatic issues between South Africa and Ghana. So let's watch this video. South African president apologizing to fellow Africans. Then when we come back, we can analyze the video further.
Of migration affects all of us. And indeed, it's an issue that is raging all over the world. And his caution and his very kind message that it should be handled with due care for the lives of all who are affected, that is precisely what we are doing in South Africa. We are guided by our constitution that promotes the respect for human rights, the dignity of others. Yes, we face this challenge where a number of our countrymen and women have been protesting against the presence of people from other countries. The government of the Republic of South Africa is firm in saying that we have a duty to respect the rights of all people on our continent. And we also have a duty to protect all people who live in our country and ensure that they are not subjected to violence, and ensure that all of us, South Africans and otherwise, respect the rule of law. 2 days ago, we had a nationwide protest where our security forces ensured that law and order is observed, even as a number of people in our country were protesting, but our security forces were firm in making sure that the respect of all people, including foreign nationals, is respected, whether they are documented or not documented, that their dignity, their lives are protected. Yes, those who have been protesting because they are concerned about their own livelihoods, arguing that they don't.
So, fellow Africans, that is the president of South Africa, President Cyril Ramaphosa, apologizing to Africans. That is good, because he is acknowledging that what is happening in South Africa is not good. At the same time, it's not promoting the spirit of Pan-Africanism. Now, why is it that South Africa is having a diplomatic role with Ghana? The reason is simple. A Ghanaian citizen was killed in South Africa during the anti-African protest in southern part of Africa. In fact, it is said that he was shot dead, yet the authorities in South Africa, they are claiming that the man was not shot during the anti-African protest in southern part of Africa. Can you even imagine that? That was a Ghanaian businessman, 40 years of age, shot dead during the anti-African protests in South Africa. So that has caused the president of Ghana, President John Dramani Mahama, to call a spade and told the president of South Africa what is happening in South Africa is not good. Because, as a matter of fact, we as Africans have to unite. We have to open borders. Both tariff and non-tariff barriers should be removed. We have to integrate, and we have to make Africa work. So if this is happening in South Africa, then we are in one way or another killing the spirit of Pan-Africanism. Okay? In fact, President John Mahama of Ghana, he has raised the issue to the Pan-African Parliament, that is the African Union, claiming that South Africa is not doing good. Now, that is President of Ghana, President John Dramani Mahama, taking this battle to another level and calling a spade. That is why President of South Africa is coming out clearly and condemning what is happening in South Africa. Yes, that Africa has to unite. And what is happening in South Africa is not good. So we have to condemn what is happening in South Africa. We have to make sure that Africa is great. Now, how can we even make sure Africa is great when we are dealing with petty? Africa is dealing with petty issues, to be honest. Because in the 21st century, can you even imagine that? We have people who cannot feed themselves. We have people who cannot take themselves to school. We have people who cannot even provide or get basic needs. So we have to deal with the basics first before we even compete in the real world, the real league. So if South Africa is doing what it's doing now, then most of the energies we are focusing on dealing with South Africa instead of trying our level best to catapult this continent to another level. So Africa has to unite, and it has to unite immediately. What is happening in South Africa is not good. We have to call a spade a spade. Okay? I dream of that day when all African borders will open so that Africans can trade within themselves. All tariff and non-tariff barriers should be removed so that trade can take place in Africa. So if this one is done, then we as Africans, we are going to see our potential and we are going to be respected in the world arena. I love it because some of the African presidents are trying their level best to push this agenda. Talk about the president of Ghana himself, President Dramani Mahama. He has said if you have an African passport, you are free to travel to Ghana. That is what we want. Kenya, go to Kenya. The president of Kenya said if you have an African passport, you are free to come to Kenya. Even if you don't have, even if you don't need a visa to come to Kenya if you are of African descent. That is what we want. So go to Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe and Botswana, they are doing good things in the southern part of Africa. So imagine if that can happen. It can be replicated throughout the continent of Africa. Then we as Africans are going to see our potential. We are going to be respected in the real league. Okay? So ladies and gentlemen, Africa must be great. Africa will be great. And it's incumbent of us, we Africans of this generation, to support each other, to love each other, so that we can take this continent to another level. Yes, Africa has to be great. It will be great, I know. Even if it will take 100 years, Africa at the end of the day will be great. That's why we are condemning the bad things that people are doing. At the same time, we are applauding some of the presidents who are doing good things in Africa. President Mahama, President of Burkina Faso, that is President Traore. Hate him or love him. The President of Rwanda, President Paul Kagame, is doing massive things in Rwanda. So Africa will be great, gentlemen. Africa must be great. So if it's your first time here, kindly like the video, show me some love, and we meet in our next video. See you next time. Africa will be great.